I'm standing on the side of the road in Sicily next to my brand new Canadian boyfriend, MJ, with our thumbs out. It's March 1976, and I met MJ in the Palermo train station, and I am so happy to have a traveling companion because I've been hitching around Europe by myself for 2 months, and it just feels so much safer to travel as a couple. Now, hitchhiking was not the original plan. I went to college when I was barely 17, and baby, I was proud of that. Until I dropped out 3 semesters later with a 1.8 GPA. So I have escaped to Europe to escape my fear, but so far, I still feel like a loser. Well, a white florist van stops on the side of the road to give us a lift. And the driver is Michele. He's handsome and swarthy, old, really old, you know, mid-30s. And we have this fabulous, cheerful conversation in broken English, which ends with his invitation. You spend the night with my grandmother? And MJ and I look at each other. Oh yeah, love the Europeans. Free place to stay, probably free food, makes our money last longer. So we're like, yes, we would love to spend the night with your grandmother. So we get to Michele's hometown, and we ditch the white florist van, and we get into his BMW. And Michele drives us around town, kind of showing us off like a little mafia don or something. And we get to his grandmother's house, and we drop off our backpacks, and we meet a couple of his friends there. There's another big, dusky, handsome guy like Michele, and then this short, balding guy. And Michele says to the balding guy, "Take the keys, get some gas, some food, and come back here." And then he says to MJ and I, "We take you to see some caves where no tourists go." And MJ and I are like, "Oh, that'd be great." We love local stuff. Well, 30 minutes later, you know, we're on this road deep in the interior, and the road peters out, and then we have to get out and hike. And while we're hiking to these caves, Michele says, "During the war, these caves were used by the resistance, but now just the mafia uses them." Oh, okay. So we get to the cave, and the entry is small and low, and you've got to get on your hands and knees to go in, and like a snap twig startles a deer, all of a sudden I am very afraid. It strikes me that I'm in the middle of nowhere with 3 strange men, about to go into a small enclosed space, and maybe that's not such a great idea. So I sort of take a step back and I say, you know what? I'm going to wait out here. Michele's face darkens, but he doesn't say anything, and off he goes with MJ into the cave, and then I think, ooh, I hope MJ's okay. Well, 10 minutes later, they come out laughing, smiling, and now I feel foolish for being fearful. And Michele says, "Time to mangiare." So we drive back down to the coastal road, and we drive to town, and then through town. I think it's kind of odd, but hey, it's light outside, the mood is friendly, and the food is free. So we go to this orchard, and we go into this little caretaker's cottage. It's really simple. It's just got like a little kitchen, like a little cot, and then a table and chairs. And the bald guy must live here because he immediately busies himself with cooking. And then that big, handsome guy, he goes outside for a minute, and he comes back in with a 5-gallon gasoline container full of homemade wine. And then he proceeds to fill iced tea glasses full of this wine. And Michele lifts his glass and says, "To new friends, yes?" And I'm, yeah, great! So I'm 18, right? I do not know how to drink to get a buzz and quit. So I am drunk in no time. Everybody's drinking except the bald guy who's cooking. Well, after dinner, Michele pulls his chair up close to me, and he takes my hand, and he starts talking to me. I'm kind of struggling, focusing on what he's saying because of all the wine. Then I don't even notice when the big guy brings his chair up on the other side of me. And then they start talking to each other in Italian, and I can tell, though, by their smiles and smirks that they're talking about me. So I stand up to put some distance between us, but I am clumsy from the wine, and Michele hooks me around the waist and pulls me onto his lap and then slides his hand down my back and across my thigh. So I push off of his shoulder and away, but the big guy pulls me over onto his lap, and then he cups my breast, and I call out to MJ, "Make them stop touching me." Weaving, MJ stands up and he says, "It's late. I think we should go back to town." Michele smiles slightly, spreads his hands, and says, "Sure, it's a good time for a ride." And the big guy releases me. We pile into the car, it's pitch black out, and get back down to that coastal road, and the bald guy, again, turns away from town. And that deer-like fear is back. I have adrenaline coursing through my system, and my mind is screaming, where are they taking us? Why aren't we going back to town? What is happening here? MJ is standing behind me, and I'm in the front passenger seat. So I reach back to him, and I squeeze his hand really hard to tell him how scared I am. And he leans forward, and he says, "Anne, they're going to have to stop. When they do, open your door and run." 10 minutes later, the car starts to slow down and make a hard right turn, and it stops. I open my door, but I fall out because I'm so drunk with my legs under the car. MJ comes up behind me, lifts me up by my arms, and we take off running, but suddenly we're falling and tumbling. The coastal road is on a 10-foot high berm, and we fall to the bottom of a ditch. The 3 Sicilian men fly out of the car, and they start calling our names. At first it's Anne, MJ, where you go? This is no way to treat your friends. But soon it's, come out. We don't have time for this. And then we hear a trunk pop, and now there are flashlights. And Michele says, "No use hiding. We find you." MJ and I just burrow down in that ditch like a couple of moles, silent and still. And finally, we hear the car door slam and the car drive away. I start to get up, but MJ grabs me by the shoulder and pulls me back down and whispers in my ear, "There are 3 men, only 2 doors closed." So we stay in that ditch. And 10 minutes later, a car comes back, a single door opens and closes, and they drive away. We're so spooked we stay down there another 45 minutes just to make sure. And then we finally climb back up onto the road, and we walk away from town on purpose until 2 a.m. when we find a pension and wake up a very unhappy owner. We'll whip out some cash and passports that are strapped to our bodies and then fall into bed exhausted from adrenaline, wine, and fear. Well, the next morning, it's light outside, we're hungover, and I think, maybe we overreacted. Maybe they were taking us to a disco or something. He's like, "Yeah, let's walk back, see if we can find that turn off, and we'll find out." And I said, "You know what, I lost my watch, so that'd be great, maybe we can find my watch too." So we walk down the road, and we do find some tracks that make a sharp right-hand turn off the road, and we find my watch. And we walk out in the directions of the tracks, and it's just an empty beach. They were not taking us to a disco. They were not taking us back to town. In all likelihood, they were going to rape me and murder us both. I feel a sudden urge to puke. MJ just abruptly sits down, and we stare at each other as we realize how close we have come to death. And then this sense of exhilaration sweeps over me. We had an adventure! I came to Europe because I thought I was weak, but I find that I am strong. Even drunk, I am not a loser. I am invincible. Newly empowered, we march back to that grandmother's house. We get our backpacks, and 10 minutes later, we are back, standing on the side of the road in Sicily with our thumbs out.